Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. My dear students, welcome to your 9th class of speaking skills. And hopefully you have done many exercises and you practiced what I have told you to practice, especially those speaking skills like how, the reductions, how to get meaning from the context, and these are very important stuff. Also, how to introduce someone these situations. In your final test, remember that your questions in the final exam will be like, I will give you a situation and how you should respond. Or if someone do something or say something, how you should respond. Also, I want you to focus on the reductions. I want you to understand the form of the reductions, because I may give you some examples in English and I will ask you what is the correct form of reductions for this sentence or statement or question. Also, we have vocabulary sections. I want you also to pay attention to your vocabulary sections. Only what we have on these, only the vocabularies we have in the class. I mean in the recorded classes. Okay? So basically you need to focus, to rely on our presentations, the PowerPoint presentations and the recorded classes. Let us today move on and start with the elements of our classes. We will start with the warming activities, having some cultural notes about the American society in general, or English language in general. Also, we'll be having a good section, a very good one, and when I say very good, it means a huge number of exercises, numerous exercises about vocabulary building, and we will also get a very good skill, reading skills and speaking skills. These skills called how to get meaning from context, how to get a clue from context. Let us start first with the first culture note. This is just to warm up. Do you know that in all cultures there are questions that are common to ask in new acquaintance and other questions that people consider impolite? So if you have a new, for example, a stranger, okay, and you met him, you can't ask him the following question in the USA, in the United States. You can't ask him, how old are you? Are you married or single? And how much money do you make? These questions are kind of prohibited because they are very private, they are very personal. You can't, ask the American people these questions. So, is it important to know this information? Yes, because it's part of your speaking skills to understand also the cultural background of this language. Because you can't isolate the language from the culture. اللغة والثقافة مرتبطة. Sometimes we have some expressions that we use in our cultures and they are unique to other cultures. Some they are unique only for us and they are not existed in other cultures. So also what you can ask in the United States, or they frequently ask the strangers or the new people or acquaintance, what do you do? What do you do? It means, it doesn't mean how are you. How do you do? It means how are you. So what do you do means what kind of work. Okay, and also where are you from? So these are very frequent questions. So I want you to understand this wonderful cultural point. Also, it's fairly common, by the way, for many people to make small talk with strangers. They see the small moment of a human contact. However, these short conversations with strangers seem to be more common in small towns than in big cities. And people everywhere are careful to speak with a stranger only in a safe situation, in a public place, or with other and with other people nearby. So in the United States, if you go to the United States, well, it's not like here that you start a conversation with anyone in any situation. There are some safe situations where you can start a conversation with, okay? Second thing, it's noticed that people who are living in the small towns are more sociable than those who live in big cities. For example, if you went to Jacksonville or for example Greensville, these are small cities in Florida, you will find that these people are sociable than those people or New Yorkers. People who live in New York are not sociable. They're just walking on the streets and no one will stop you except the beggars, okay? So this is kind of a stereotype. So please try to avoid stereotypes. We will talk about stereotypes later on. So this is what I say. A conversation is just kind of a moment for human contact, okay, for the American people. And it's not actually, it's weird to start a conversation with anyone. It's very weird. So you need to choose the situation to make sure that the situation is the right place to make this or a conversation. And remember the questions. You can't start your conversations with a new acquaintance with the questions like, what's your name? Okay, you can't answer about how old are you? So you can't ask him, are you married? You can start your conversation, how do you do? The weather is hot, the line is long. So this is how you can start a conversation in the United States. In American English, you will sometimes also hear the expressions two's company, three's a crowd. This refers to a situation in which there are three people together, maybe two close friends and a much younger brother or sister. The closer friends would prefer to be alone with each other. Do you have an expression for this in your language? So any three people together, they sit together, it's called two companies or three's crowd. Okay? So do not translate these idioms or expressions literally, because if you want to translate two companies, you will say we have the number of two of companies. We have only two companies. That means you're talking about one company and another company. But here, this is kind of a figurative expression. Two's companies or three's a crowd means people, three people get together. Okay? So all of these are cultural notes. They are really interesting, and I have prepared to insert them into your presentations in order to understand the American culture. Because I can't, or you can't, I can't teach and you can't learn the American English language without considering the culture. So you need to understand the culture in order to understand the language, because they are intermingled. You can't isolate them. Let us move on and discuss some of these vocabularies. And I want you to understand the meanings of these vocabularies and how can we use them. The first word, as you can see, unique. The second is notion. Data, virgin, slang, shortcuts, competitive, database, trio, look down on. First of all, researchers are collecting for their study of changing language in Singapore. They are collecting data. And I want you to understand the meanings, okay? Try to understand the meanings of these vocabularies from the context itself. If you can't, just in some emergency cases, you can go back to the dictionary and check and look up these words. There are some words that are to Singapore. You can't find these words in any other country. They're unique. unique. Okay, unique, it means فريد من نوعه. This is only one. Okay. In some societies, people, those who do not use the language well, like in our society, we look down on those who don't use the language well. It's usually fine to use when you are talking with your friends, but it's not usually a good idea to use such language in a formal situation. So the opposite of formal situation, or it's called the slang language. You can use a slang language with your friends, okay, but you can't use slang language with your parents, with your father or mother, or with older people, or with your professor. You can't use it. Okay. Number 5, an unhappy sat at the table, an unhappy trio sat on the table next to ours in the restaurant, a young man, a young woman, and a very noisy little boy. Trio means 3 people. Trio means 3 people. Number 6, that is an interesting. Okay, so we put actually right here some, you know, that's an interesting notion. Let's discuss this idea. Let's discuss this idea at our meeting next week. Number 7, American might say, we started the project together, but then John left me holding the bag. This means that I had to take responsibility for finishing the project. The British of the same idiom is holding the baby. Is holding the baby. Okay, I have done 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I want you, and 6 as well, and I want you to do 7, 8, and 9. These are actually kind of homework. Okay, homework. So you can do it by yourself, and I want you to understand the meaning of these and memorize them. تحفظوهم وتعرفوا استخداماتهم. To understand them and memorize them, because speaking, building your vocabulary will improve your speaking skills. Because you can't speak without English vocabularies, without knowing a new vocabularies. So you need to understand the meanings of these vocabularies. They are not a lot, because you're an English student. You can, and you are get familiar with the language, and you can memorize all of these. Just, you can memorize like 10 or 5 to 10 words a day. Try to understand their meanings in English and try to use them in sentences. So that was our part, the first part. Here we have another cultural note. And I like these cultural notes, by the way, because they actually, I reminisce now the past. I can remember the past days when I was in the United States, and I'm pretty sure that these are true cultural notes. These cultural notes are not point of views. هذا مش وجهة نظر. These are facts, because we can see it on the American street or society. This cultural note says, and you have to pay attention to these cultural. I will ask you in the final exam about some of these cultural notes. Okay, so try to understand them. I'm not saying memorize them. هذا مو تحفظ لكن الفهم. Because I'm going to test your logic, your reason. Okay, it's not very polite to call a woman lady. It's not very polite to call a woman lady. Miss is much more polite. Ma'am is for older women. You can call a man sir, but it's not polite to call a man Mr. without his last name. وإحنا أحيانا نخطأ في استخداماتها، لكن مش خطأ هي، لكن we have different cultures. we have different culture. In our culture, sometimes we call a woman lady. Lakin in the American culture, it's very impolite to call a woman lady. Impolite عكس polite, or means not very polite. You can use miss. You can also use ma'am for older women. لكن مش miss for younger women. You can also call a man sir. لكن مش Mr. Mr. is actually kind of impolite word to call a man. Or you can say Mr. لكن you need to mention his last name. For example, if his name is John Kennedy and you want to call him Mr., if you just say Mr., this is impolite way. لكن if you call him Mr. Kennedy, this is more polite way. This one is more polite way. So you need to mention his last name. Okay? So hopefully you find this culture note interesting. Let us move on now to our vocabulary. Today is a vocabulary day, and I want you seriously to understand the meanings of these vocabularies. Now, our new one is adventure, mobile, or mobile. You can pronounce it either way. Residence, census, population, suburbs. Find the word that matches each synonym or definition below. Well, a group of people, it's called population. Area surrounding a city, it's called suburb or suburbs. Moving or able to move, mobile or mobile. Well, if you want to say mobile like it's movable, you can say mobile. Okay, mobile is just for your cell phone. The place or house where one lives, it's called residence. And residence, CE. Trip or experience, usually exciting. And official count of how many people there are in certain region. I will leave these for you. Okay, these also are homework. I want you to go back to the dictionary and try to check the meaning of each one. Okay, by the way, I always go back to www, right here, the free dictionary.com. This website is really interesting. Why it's interesting? Because it's very helpful for three reasons. First of all, it gives you the exact pronunciation in the American and the British accent. Second, it also gives you a definition of the, it's not only the, I said an example for each definition. Okay, so it gives you examples. And third, they give you the synonyms, muradifat, the meanings of these words, muradifat. So go back to the freedictionary.com and try to use it whenever you find yourself, you find a very, a very unfamiliar word. Just go back, not always go back, but in some emergency cases, okay? Let us move to another cultural note, and here it's a very important cultural note, since it talks about the American peoples themselves. They say the average person in the United States has at least one pet. Pet ممكن يكون cat أو dog, little dog, small dog. So imagine that the average person in the United States has at least one pet. 30% have a dog and 22% have a cat. Is that interesting? It's really an interesting statistics. Why? Because it gives you new, this is kind of a new information. It's really, interesting to know such stuff. The average person in the United States lives in a household of 3 people. Not more than 3 people. Maybe the man and the wife and the child. The average person in the United States spends 1/3 of his or her money on housing. Imagine, housing is very expensive over there. Yeah, housing is very expensive in the United States. The average person in the United States lives within 50 miles of a coastline. You know what the coastline? Those areas that next to the coast, next to the ocean, next to the water. They're called coastline cities or towns. Okay, so the average person in the United States live within 50 miles of a coastline. 50 miles, it's around like 120 kilometers. Okay, over there people, they use the miles instead of kilometers. Okay, let us move now to vocabulary match, and today is our vocabulary day. For each expression on the left, find the expression on the right with the same meaning. Write its letter on the line. Excuse me, it's already solved here. It's called pardon me. To transfer, it means to exchange. Dollar bills, it means paper money. And exact change means correct amount of coins. Correct amount of coins. So here we are moving from, because we were talking here about money. Actually, this culture note was talking basically about money and consuming money, right? Consuming money. So these words, you will find them important to know. And now we have another culture note, which is also interesting. Today we have changed the mode of speaking skills to increase your cultural notes, cultural knowledge about the English culture in general. This wonderful cultural note says that in most restaurants in the Middle East, customers have or leave a 10% tip for the waiter. For example, if you buy something for 100 riyals, you need to leave 10% of 100, which means 10 riyals. Okay? So a little more if the service was excellent, and sometimes you can leave a little more or a little less for poor service. So it depends on the service. If you have excellent service, you pay more tips. If you have less excellent or poor service, you pay less. You can ask for separate checks if you and a friend are paying separately. That way, it's easier to know how much each person should pay. If you are in a larger group, the waiter may not want to separate checks. However, okay? So this is what actually do in our Middle East. If somebody asks you about the restaurants in our regions, like in Saudi Arabia and Jordan and Qatar and whatever, and UAE, you can give him enough information about how much money he should lift or how much tips he should leave for the waiter. And you can also explain to him what to do. You can explain to him or her what to do when you actually get into a restaurant. How much money you pay. If you have a bad or poor service you can't pay, you can say, oh, sorry, that was a poor service. We can, if it was an excellent service, you can pay more, maybe a little more. So this is a good information for you. Now, guessing the meaning. So we were talking about restaurant, and here this exercise is talking about food. Most of them, not all of them, okay? let us read the first sentence, how to get meaning from context. And I want you to practice this skill very well. In the final test, in the final exam, you will have questions like this. Guess the meaning from the context. So I'm asking you to guess the meaning from the context in the final exam. The first one, one study of the diet of Chinese people living in rural areas showed that they eat much more fruit, vegetables, and grains اللي هي مثل rice and wheat, than most people in industrialized countries like the United States or Canada. Now this is the question. What does a rural areas mean? What does the underlined words mean? Okay, so rural areas means, okay, and here we have the grains and industrialized. First of all, you have many different ways to guess the meaning from the context. The first one, you need to look at the surrounding words. شو يعني surrounding words? الكلمات المحيطة فيها. Sometimes you may find another word similar to its meaning or contrasting the meaning. Rural is contrasting the industrial word. Okay, so شو يعني rural? Rural means all the countries except the industrial, like not an industrialized country. Rural means poor country, because the industrialized country is rich country. How come I know they are rich? Because he mentioned like هذه إشارات. Sometimes he give you example. Through the example, you can understand the meaning. Here, industrialized countries like the United States or Canada. The United States is rich and Canada is rich. Industrialized, okay? Grains, شو معنى grains? How come you know the meanings of the grains? We have here the word such as. Such as is used to give a definition. To give a definition, لتعطي تعريف. Such as, give a definition. Exactly the same like. Exactly as like. So, a grain means rice and wheat. لاحظت الآن كيف? So, I can understand the meanings from some signs in the passage or maybe in the context. Such as, like, as, means, all of these signs or words will help you to understand, or is also verb to be, will help you to understand the definition of some words. Okay? Also, sometimes the punctuation. For example, let us read the second sentence. They also consume 3 times as much fiber, the bulky or tough parts of a plant. شو يعني fiber? Fiber, the things between هذا punctuation. The punctuation ممكن يكون commas, ممكن يكون brackets, يعني هذه الكومة, this is a brackets, and here is parenthesis. هذه is called parenthesis. The things or the words between the parentheses, الكلمات الموجودة ما بين الأقواس, explain the meaning of fiber or gives the meaning of fiber. So شو معنى fiber? Fiber means tough parts of the plants, bulky. Okay? Let us go to number 3. Researchers are studying the beneficial effects of eating a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables to find out why these foods are good for you. What does the word researchers mean? Researchers are those who study what? The effects of anything. مش بس eating. They study the effects of reading a lot, studying a lot, writing. They studying the effects of, or the causes. Effects معناتها results. عكس results, causes. Researchers start studying the causes and the results of something. Okay? So how come I understand the meaning of researchers? Because here it uses verb to be. مثلا نحكي Ahmed is my friend. Who is Ahmed? My friend. Okay? So this is a very oversimplified example. The last one, number 4, exercise helps control weight and relieve tension or stress. شو معنى stress؟ We have a sign. في عندنا دليل لمعناها هي or أو. الأو بمعنى البديل alternative. فstress شو معناها؟ tension. So did you get the meaning? Let us take some of these. I will give you some of the rules how to get the meaning from context. First of all, definition. You can use definition. A definition gives the meaning of words. The writer may use words, phrases, or statements to define something. The writer will use keywords or signal words to identify a definition, so you need to look for them. You need to look for them. Them لمين ترجع؟ The signals, the words. For example, هذه الأمثلة all of these are keywords. وجدنا احنا مثلا في الأمثلة السابقة مثل are أعطت definition. أيضا أخذنا كلمة مثل so this is the only one, right? أيضا also you can say like. We will actually, this is included in the examples. Look at this example, for example. Sometimes, or someone who explores and studies caves is known as spelunker. Okay? هذا أول مرة بتمر. This is unfamiliar word. How come I give the meaning of this word from the context? First of all, I need to look for signal words, for some signal words. Okay? وين ممكن نجد is known as هي مذكورة هنا. So who is spelunker? Someone who explores the caves. كيف كان الدليل على أنه نعرف معناته؟ اللي هي definition signal words. أيضا ممكن the writer may use other words or phrases or sentence to provide the meaning of difficult words. هذا بنسميه restatement. يعني يعيد نفس المعنى لكن بكلمات أخرى. We call this restatement, the writer describe it again or in different way. Signal words for the restatements in the keywords like these. هذا أخذناها الآن في المثال القبل or, that is to say, in other words, or that is. Okay, وأخذنا مثال عن or قبل قليل. Example, the surface of Africa consists mainly of plateaus or large flat areas, although these occur at different levels. Plateaus or large flat areas, or هي is used to restate. For large flat هي معناتها plateaus. Okay? سهلة. So or was a signal word. هو يسأل عن معنى plateaus, and what comes after or explain the meaning of plateaus. If someone asks you what does large flat areas means, it means plateaus as well. Okay? So these are two good steps to know how to get the meaning from the context. Let us now go to our cultural notes to have a break. You know, it says in some restaurants, now we are continuing our discussion about the restaurant. We have talked about the restaurants in the Arab world or the Middle East. In some restaurants, no one brings you your food because the restaurant is self-service or buffet style. هذا صحيح, it's self-service. This means that you get your own plate and serve yourself. You need to serve yourself. You don't have to be lazy and wait the waiter to clean everything. In these restaurants, you don't have to leave a 10% tip. You can leave a smaller tip if you like. For example, if you went to McDonald's in the United States, McDonald's, and then you buy a meal, okay, After you finish, you need to take your plate and put it on the trash area. No one will come and clean after you. Because it's a self-service, you don't pay money. So in America, you don't pay money for the waiters who work like in a self-service restaurant. So you need to pay attention if you decide to go or to travel over there. This is very important, and this is my job and your job and every educated man's job. It says avoid making stereotypes. Stereotypes. Stereotypes mean mistaken ideas about others. إنه أفكار مغلوطة عن الآخرين. Keeping your minds open will help you learn more about other cultures. Because you're English student, you need to keep your mind open to know about English structure. A stereotype is generalization about a group of people. For example, you have seen someone who stole money from another one in the United States. That doesn't mean that all Americans are stealers or thieves. It also applies to our culture. If someone, for example, saw someone in one city, in Jordan, for example, and he was shouting loudly, that doesn't mean that all Jordanian people shout loudly or say something loudly. This is what we call a stereotype. The idea may be wrong, but many people believe it. It's common to form stereotypes of a new culture, but it's important to remain open to the possibility that your first impression might not be accurate. So you need to be sure that your first impression was accurate. In the academic world, you will probably meet people from many countries and cultures, and your experience will be more and more positive if you have an open mind. An open mind person is the person who avoid stereotypes, who has the ability to learn more about other cultures. So please be open-minded to understand other cultures. These are some words that you will hear actually, and we have already heard in the last few words. Misconceptions, it means mistaken ideas. So F, homesickness, feeling sadness of missing a place. And these words are related to those who travel outside, abroad. Transition, it means, so here mistaken idea is gone, and here is gone. And then transition, it means change. Stage, it means step. So here is gone. And I will leave the three of these for you as a homework. So how many homeworks we have? A lot. Okay, you can understand. You have to check these words by yourself. Okay, go back to the dictionary and try to understand them. Here, how to get meaning from context. I will do some of these and I will leave the rest of them for you because I have already done one before it. Okay, this will sound sort of weird, and I guess maybe it is kind of strange, but it's true. Sort of weird. And I guess maybe it is هذه حكينا بأنه it gives a definition. Kind of strange. Kind of strange معناتها sort of weird. Okay? He put the car in reverse and slowly backed up. In reverse means to back up. And I went into such a very severe culture. So 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 7 are also homework. I want you to do it by yourself. I have done 8 of them, okay? It's easy for you now to understand some of these. Before we leave, let's, for example, Let us, for example, understand and discuss the following. So we have talked about the definition and restatement. Another way is punctuation marks is another way how to get the meaning from the context. Punctuation is used to describe the meaning of unfamiliar words. The writer will write unfamiliar words and then use punctuation. حكينا punctuation علامات ترقيم من commas, appositive, parentheses, dashes, هذه خطأ, dashes, semicolon and colon. لاحظوا هذه الجملة مثلا. Full color pictures are printed using only black and three colors, yellow, cayenne and magenta. طيب شو يعني cayenne؟ لاحظوا الآن في عندنا أشياء بين parentheses، هذه تعني cayenne. أيضا magenta كلمة جديدة بالنسبة لكم، شو معناتها؟ light purple. ليش؟ كيف تدلين عليها؟ من خلال اللي هي punctuation. The use of computers to handle text or word processing was foreseen in the 1915. شو يعني handle text؟ أول شيء handle text في عنا هنا شو سميناها هذه؟ appositive، جملة اعتراضية. Handling text means word processing. So please pay attention to these rules, how to get meaning. Also examples، أخذنا أمثلة سابقة ذكرت فيها such as, like, for example, for instance, is and are. Whenever you find these signal words, you will come to know the meanings of some unfamiliar words. For example, use negative buttons such as the next button, the previous button, the menu button, the exit button to go back and forth to jump or to other topics while you are using your English software. أول شيء بسألنا what does the word or the phrase negative or negation buttons mean؟ في عندنا signals طبعا اللي هي such as. شو معناتها؟ after كل شيء ما بعدها لحد نهاية اللي هو الجملة هي بمعنى navigation buttons. Okay, so we can use also examples on these signal words to understand the meaning. This is also cultural note. Talk shows are very popular in the United States. Oprah Winfrey is one example of American talk show host. On her program, she is very popular. People often talk about their personal subjects and frequently express emotional free. Here we have some expressions. They are used to express emotions. Let us read together. And do you remember the participles? أخذنا الparticiples اللي هو the present participle وال past participle. When I first arrived in this country, I was really happy. I was excited. Everything was new and everything was exciting. Okay. But then I started to have some problems. I had trouble with the language. A lot of the customs were strange and irritated. Okay, they were strange and irritating. So we go here 3. Some new customs bothered me a little bit, and they were actually irritated. So here it's number 4 and here number 3. But others seemed really terrible. I was shocked. هي 5. I was shocked by some of them. Okay, I will leave all of these for you. You can do it by yourself. Okay, I have done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you will do 6, 7, and 8. Okay, and please just pay attention to the past participle and the present participles. For these vocabularies also, I have decided weep means cry, mutilating means change, reserved it means not showing emotion, to loosen up it means to relax, outdoing it means to do something in a bigger way than the other people do it, egalitarian it means to, it means equal. Quadrant means shaking. Climate, it means atmosphere. Renowned means famous. Extraordinary, it means not ordinary or ordinary, ليس عادي أو amazing. Grieving, it means suffering, sadness. To dedicate, as you can see in H, to tell something what to do. For here, this is kind of a short exam. You can actually, and I want you to do this quick exam by yourself. Also, this is homework. Okay? Sometimes you don't know the answer. Just try your best. Next, in the next class, we will actually answer the following quiz. Okay? Thank you so much for listening. Please do all of these exercises. Try to memorize all the vocabularies and try to understand the culture notes. Thank you so much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.